Hey everyone, and welcome to Hard Launch the podcast, the show where we talk about love, relationships, and everything in between. We're your hosts, Margot and Nick, and we're so glad you're here. Whether you're tuning in for the first time or coming back for more, thank you for joining us. Let's get into it. Hello, and welcome to Hard Launch the podcast. I'm Margot.
I'm Nick.
And we are your hosts today. So this is our first episode for you guys. And Nick and I are actually in our school's digital media center, and we're really excited to talk with you guys today. How are you feeling, Nick?
Definitely a little nervous. I'm not super familiar with being in front of a camera, but I'm excited.
Yeah, me neither. No, we had originally made this episode about a month ago, and we just made it in our apartment, and it was much less high quality than I think this is going to be.
Yeah.
So now we're in a totally new space, and we're really excited, but also pretty nervous. So yeah, before we get started today, we kind of wanted to talk a little bit about who we are and our relationship, so to give you guys a little more context of our life.
We met in high school. Margot asked me to prom, and I then asked Margot to prom, but high school sweethearts, and we're engaged. Got engaged pretty young for most people's standards. Margot was still 19, and I was 20. We're 21 and 20 now. But I don't know, we're, in our eyes and in most people's feedback, we're a pretty good relationship, and we want to talk about our views on relationships and stuff in modern times.
Yes, I feel like so Nick and I have been together for about 3 years, a little over 3 years now, and we've gone through a lot of different changes. Like he said, we've been in high school, we went to college, we originally did long distance, and we're engaged pretty young, and so we've gone through like a lot of different seasons of life in such a short amount of time. And I think a lot of times for the past few years, we've just been talking about how we have a lot of very interesting ideas when it comes to relationships, and we've been wanting to make a podcast for quite some time. So what are we going to be talking about today?
Okay, today we're going to be breaking down, I think like a TikTok popularized term, the orange peel theory.
Yes.
Basically just like your man,
Or
according to
woman.
TikTok, but yeah, your partner, according to TikTok, should be doing simple tasks that you can easily accomplish for you because it is a simple task, but they're just asking you to do it. Why not just do it?
Yeah, so the basis of the orange peel theory is basically if I said to Nick, like I had an orange, and I was like, peel this orange for me. And he said, he got like all annoyed and was like, why would you ask me to peel an orange for you? Like, that's such a simple task. The orange peel theory basically says that that's like a red flag and that your partner should be peeling the orange because it's such a simple and easy task that like why not? Like why not just do something nice for your partner?
Yeah.
Yeah. And I think that this is definitely something that's very popularized on like female TikTok feeds, but
Yeah.
it kind of goes everywhere. Nick was actually the one that brought it up to me a couple years ago.
Yeah, I'd only ever seen one video about it, but I sent it to Margot because every night before bed, she asks me to get a glass of water for her. And it was a point of contingency for a little bit because some days I'd have like super long shifts or really hard days, and then I'd lie down and let out a big sigh of relief, and Margot would go, "Can you get us water?" And I'd just get all upset, and I'd get all riled up because I was so tired, but then we found the orange peel theory, and it helped with that for a while.
No, and I think like so this episode is at least as of right now, I might have changed it, but we wanted Nick's idea for this episode was to call it "Can you get me my water?" The orange peel theory, because asking your man for water before bed is also kind of like a TikTok trend of like relationships. And if you're on TikTok, follow Hard Launch Podcast.
True.
Yep. So we'll be breaking it down. So that's the orange peel theory. So the next thing we wanted to talk about is why does this resonate with us?
From the male perspective, at least, and not saying that it's all just for males, but for the male perspective, for the majority, it's like a it's a point of like annoyance for a lot of guys. And then this is like, it's like a counter argument to that annoyance, which I thought was very interesting because after a while, it's just every night. And then some nights I just kind of be like, really don't want to get the water anymore. Like this is every night. And she knows that kind of like annoys me sometimes. But then I saw that and it added a level of like, she very much easily could get this water, but values that I get it for her. It's like a little tradition. It is a simple task and I can just do it. Like just as
Yeah.
easy as it would be for Margot to get it, it's also that easy for me to just get it regardless of the day I've had, you know?
Right. And I think something that's interesting about the orange peel theory is that I feel like it's very like female centered. I think it's also really important to make sure that it's not just like always like asking your man for small tasks but not returning the favor. And so I think that's something that I feel like should be explored more because there's totally benefits to it. And I love the orange peel theory. I think it's something that I really like in our relationship because I know Nick was saying that that was something that like would annoy him, but also I think in our relationship part of why it's worked so well is cuz we really are partners. And, if I've had like a really long day at school or a really long day at work and I come home and I'm exhausted and he has a little bit more to give, then he usually is able to do those small monotonous tasks. And it's a really nice thing to be in a relationship that actually feels like a partnership because together by doing these small monotonous tasks, if you can handle it, it really does allow you to improve each other's lives so that each person can get a little bit more from it. And that's actually something that maybe we should talk about. How do we feel about this is something Nick and I talk about a lot. How do we feel about the idea that relationships should be 50%, 50%?
Hmm. We do have something that we bring up a lot. I also got introduced to this from TikTok, but it's like a percentage scale. It's like if our relationship as a two-person function operates within 100% on a perfect day, we're both at 50, which means we're both contributing an even amount. However, realistically, we know that 50-50 and a perfect day is almost never a thing. And it's really important to communicate that when you're around your partner, like sometimes for me, I'll be at an 80 and I'll say it and I'll just be super happy all the time. Or sometimes if I'm at like a 20, I gotta be like, hey, Margot, I'm not doing so good. Can you step up and like do more for us today? Or like,
Right.
can you bring more emotionally for us today? And there's also the unfortunate scenario where we're both less than 50. However, the important part of that is that you bring it up because if you're both aware of the fact that neither one is at full capacity or like you're pulling weight capacity, then you're both able to be like, okay, maybe I should be aware of like what we're both capable of today. And maybe one of us is capable of more and maybe both of us are capable of less. It's a good, like, not like a warning, but it's like now we can be,
For a warning.
yeah, sometimes it's a
Yeah.
warning. If we're both at like a 10 or a
Yeah.
5, it's like, okay, we just need to probably chill and not do much today, you know?
Yeah. It's also like I feel like it relates to the orange peel theory a lot because if Nick is at a 10 and I or at a 10% and I'm at like a 90 and I can fill that other part and I'm asking him to do small monotonous things like go and grab our water, like that is one of those situations where I feel like the orange peel theory has some critique to it because in that case, like I am able to do these things and I shouldn't be putting my partner at that risk. And so I think that what's so interesting for Nick and I about the 50-50, 100%, like these percentages that we assign our moods and energy levels at, I think the reason this works so well in a relationship, excuse me, I'm kind of sick, but I think the reason that this works so well in a relationship is because a lot of people go into relationships, and I see this a lot from like my friends, is that they go into relationships and they're saying relationships need to be 50-50. I I feel like I'm giving so much to my partner and he's not giving me enough back, or like I'm not giving him enough right now. But relationships need to be 50-50, and that's not fair that on this day I'm doing these things and he's not doing them back. And there's so much validity to that in general in our relationship, Nick and my relationship. I would say in general, it is 50-50. Like all these averages even out, and we provide like a pretty equal amount of work in our relationship, even if it's in different ways. But I think it's really important to realize that in your entire life, you guys are never going to be able every single day to put in the same amount of work, especially during different phases like kids and college and work and all of these things that are just so draining, sometimes more on one person, right? And I think it's really important to understand that there's grace to that. But of course, you can't just say, I'm giving this person grace, so I'm just going to accept that I feel really bad about the amount of energy they're putting in. Instead, it's like going to your partner and saying, like, hey, I feel like I can give more today. What do you need? Or I know you've been struggling, but I'm kind of struggling too. Like, how can we approach this? And having that communication. Um, but yeah, so I think that's why the orange peel theory, I think, is something that's so important in our relationship and why it's kind of blown up online because it's just it's something that applies to every relationship.
Yeah. I was going to say too, something important that you brought up just now is like how it applies in a broader, much more long-term scale
Hmm.
where you can think of that percentage is not just like every day, but you can think about it over like weeks and months. Or like there will be some weeks where Margot is swamped and has tests and has homework, and she's at a 20 or less every day for like a month.
Hmm.
And I have to step it up. And then there's, of course, some days where I can't. But like newer relationships, those are kind of make or break moments
Yeah.
where you're like, oh, this is bad for an extended period of time. There probably isn't a way out of this. And I feel like that's where a lot of relationships kind of end early or like at
Hmm.
their first like downhill slope. But what ends up happening then is like in the distant future or near future, I'll then get swamped with tests and Margot will be doing better. And like you said, it like evens out over time. Or like it can be the same for financial stuff too. Like maybe we go hang out with friends 6 times in 1 month and I pay for everything. We never have this thought where it's like one of us is paying for everything. Cause then the next like 6 times we do something, Margot will kind of do the same, and it always evens out over time. And that percentage is always like fluctuating back and forth.
Yes.
And it's never just staying on one side. Because, of course, once you get to one side and it's a problem, that's where things like healthy communication, talking about your percentage levels and stuff is really important. I think that that is a big separation between a mature, like long-term driven mindset as far as a relationship goes and just kind of like a inexperienced relationship, I guess. I think
Absolutely.
through our relationship, that's something I've discovered very thoroughly is
Yeah.
there's not going to be short-term gratification every time, and there's not going to be a instant solution. And sometimes things are bad for a long time, and sometimes things are good for a long time, but like it's always going to go back and forth.
Yeah. Kind of going back to what you're saying about financially, like how I know we've kind of strayed from the orange peel theory. Also, can I have your water? Oh, I have my water. Um, can I have your water? In this situation, I actually could get my water. Um,
I didn't even realize that's what you were saying. That's crazy.
but what was this? Okay, yeah. So I think it's really interesting that you bring up like financial reasons for this, and I'm gonna stray so much from the orange peel theory here. First, I remember Nick in my freshman year of college, I had dining dollars. And dining dollars are like the best thing ever. For context, we did long distance for like my first semester of college, and then I transferred to where Nick goes to school. And we could do a whole thing about that too, because I know that's kind of controversial in itself. But I transferred and I used my dining dollars a lot because I had a meal plan. Nick didn't have a meal plan. He was living off campus. And so we would go to like the cafes and very frequently I would go and like buy him like a pastry as like a surprise or like get him a hot chocolate or something. And we would go out like without dining dollars and I would get him food. And then I remember like feeling so bad whenever he would buy anything for me. And I think and I remember, like, Nick kind of had this conversation where he was like, "Look, you do all this stuff for me." And it goes back to what you're saying about how maybe you will pay for, like, 6 times that we hang out, and then it kind of evens out because I do it too. And I think it's just really, like, important to realize that the orange peel theory does kind of request more from one partner, and I think that's a really beautiful thing. It's really nice to feel cared about and provided for, and, providing doesn't necessarily mean financial. It could mean I'm peeling your orange, right?
Yeah.
But there's also just, like, the long term, like you were saying, that it evens out. Another thing, and this is the part that's gonna go very off topic, but when we were talking about, like, the idea that maybe he pays for 6 dates and I pay for 6 more later, like, it doesn't necessarily have to even out perfectly. If, say, one of us is working and the other isn't, like, right now, it's summer, right? And so Nick is working full time and I'm a full-time student right now. I'm a full-time student at home. So I'm doing a lot less right now. And he comes home every day and he's exhausted. I can do a little more to pitch in for him and be more of like the orange peeler. But like it doesn't necessarily have to even out over time. And I think a big part of it is recognizing the difference between equality and fairness. Going back to the financial issue, if I am literally not working at all and Nick is working, like, yeah, maybe there's a higher probability that he's going to be paying for dates. But it doesn't necessarily, like, that's not a bad thing that we're not evening out to 50. Maybe it's just that one of us is more able to do this thing at a certain time. And again, this kind of brings us back to the orange peel theory and what we were talking about with like the 50-50, where it's like, it's just not always going to be 50-50, even long term. And I think that's like a good nuance to like think about.
Except
Except
you're not even thinking long term enough.
long term enough.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay.
Because this is like the time period where I'm paying for most things, right?
Uh huh.
But then in the long term, we have a plan where I'm going to be going to grad school and Margot's going to be supporting me through that. So, like, in the end, it all evens out. Plus, even if it didn't, Margot going to school is an investment in itself.
Ooh, okay.
Yeah.
All right. Next topic. Let me figure out. What is a moment when one of us realized how much these small acts of kindness mattered?
I can't really put like a date or time on it, but it's definitely like it's an easy mental memory for me.
Okay.
There's definitely been times where like my gut reaction to the orange peel requests are like, I'm just like, ugh, how could she ask that after just seeing the sound I just made when I finally laid down? But
This makes it sound like
no, it makes
like
it sound bad, but that's kind of the point, you know?
that's true.
Like it is the point. It's that easy.
Yeah.
That is the point.
Yeah.
I am actually not losing anything by getting up for 10 seconds and then lying
Mm.
back down, you know?
Hmm.
You could do it. But also, it's just like, it's not that big a deal.
Yeah.
Because the other thing that, like, I notice.
Oh, I guess that is like the entire point of the orange peel theory is that it's not that deep.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, that's something I was going to say earlier, but I kind of lost the thought is like, the reason why, in my opinion, the orange peel theory has validity is it's not like mowing the lawn or doing all the dishes, things that like actually can be grueling if you're tired. It's not serious stuff. It's tiny things
Yeah.
that like, it's not even like you don't want to do it or you would hate doing it. It's just that it's like, you just ask because it's that simple.
But
You
when
know?
did you realize like how like important these small acts are?
When we had a talk, yeah, we had a talk about it eventually.
Yeah.
And you kind of did say this to me. You were like, yeah, I could very easily do these things. It's just sweet to feel like you will just do them, you know?
Yeah.
And I feel like it sounds silly when you say it out loud, but it's kind of cute, you know?
Yeah.
Like when I'm just laying there and you're just like, "Can you go get a glass of water?" And Mario's laying in bed, but then like immediately when I get the glass of water, she'll like get up and do three things, indicating that it would have been really easy for her to get the water. She just wanted me to do it, you know? It's like it's funny, it's humorous, and that's when I think that like
Yeah.
the deepness of it, like being some horrible thing, was just like washed away. I was just like,
Did you feel like it was a horrible
no, but like you go into any TikTok comment section and there are some guys in there that are like, they're just they just don't care. They don't
some
care about how
Andrew
tired
Tate?
you are, care about your emotions or your feelings. And I was like, it's just not that deep. Like
Yeah.
she has the energy to get up. It's just funny.
Maybe we can be the next Andrew Tate on our podcast. Men, you are the prize. What are the phrases? What are like the things?
I hope you're happy to know that I actually have no idea.
I'm very glad. I'm trying to think like what are like if you want a high value woman, why isn't she peeling your orange?
True.
Sorry, that was probably so loud. I don't know. Okay. Ooh, hear me out. What if your partner has a different love language? What if your partner's love language is not acts of service? Because Nick's love language is definitely acts of service. And you know what? We can honestly talk about this because that's not my love language. I have like,
She does nothing for me. It's not true. Don't worry.
my, I'm not like a little monotonous task kind of person. I think for me, like I show love in like much like bigger
Yeah,
ways.
Margot will give you a motivational speech that will actually alter your like
Yeah.
thoughts about life.
Yeah. Like I'm not like really like a little, it's the little things kind of partner. I feel like I show my love a lot more with like words and a lot more with actual like planning and like quality time and all of those things.
Yeah.
But yeah, so let's talk about this because like that's not really my love language. So how does that like affect our relationship?
This one I don't know how to relate it to other people, but I feel like for our dynamic, it's easy to understand because, like you said, I do like to just kind of help.
Mhm.
Helping people makes me feel good, and it makes me feel like satisfied to just be helpful. And then, like you said, you're not really like a small tasks girl. And like I said earlier, I am so different and motivated in really good ways because of some of those speeches, and I've like fixed family relationships and like how I view the world because of some of those. And that means a lot to me because if you just think a little deeply about it, it's like no one would give you that speech if they didn't care, you know?
Yeah.
And I know that there's no part of Margot that doesn't care about me. Like she cares about me because she gives me these speeches and pushes me. And sometimes like it's uncomfortable because it'll be like things that I hate talking about. And then it always works better, you know?
Yeah.
And I am very capable of a good speech, but I feel like I show my love definitely just more through like consistent small
Acts
things.
of
Yeah.
service.
Yeah. It's just it's a different dynamic.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We kind of talked about how important it is to communicate like as the partner who may be being requested the peeled orange. We talked about like if you don't have that to give, if you're at a 20 and your partner's at a 50 and could very much peel their own orange. Like we talked about how important it is to like have communication about that. How can we actually like tell people how we would approach communicating about it? Cuz I think something that we pride our relationship on a lot is our like communication and the fact that we've gotten to a point where we're very comfortable bringing up every little thing, but it definitely was not easy at first, and it definitely wasn't easy in other relationships that we've had. You and I started our relationship long distance, and so we were kind of forced to learn how to communicate because that was all we had. But how can we use what we've experienced to teach other people how to bring forward an issue like that?
My thoughts on this one are difficult just because it's just not applicable to everybody.
Yeah.
But it's always just having the mindset that your partner doesn't like, no matter if they're being annoying or hurting your feelings. I guess that's not a blanket statement because some people do just want to hurt your feelings. But like, if you're in it for the long run, a bad day and a bad conversation doesn't mean you hate each other. It's just a bad day, you know?
Yeah.
And so, like, if you're having a bad day and I don't want to peel any oranges, I could be like, I'm not in the mood for this right now. And it could come across kind of harsh and be like, and Margaret could be like, whoa, that's not usual. And she might get annoyed. Not because I'm saying no to peeling oranges, but because I'm like coming out of nowhere.
Expressing it in a
Yeah.
way.
Expressing it in like a harsh-ish way. And that's why bringing it all the way back, it's important to communicate where you're at
Yeah.
when you see each other. And I think another part of that is not just like at the start of the day, but like when you split up and then come back together, do it again. Because your day can change, you know? If I wake up in an excellent mood, go to work, have to do horrible things and deal with horrible people, and come home really angry,
Yeah.
I should let you know so that you don't walk into something you're not ready for.
Yeah.
So you don't ask me to fill up water. I'm like, why would you ask me that?
Yeah.
Just out of nowhere.
Right.
Yeah.
Also, I think on a different vein, but on the same kind of note, something I've noticed from communication is that everybody has like a first like knee-jerk response to confrontation. Something that I learned a lot in a relationship is those first, at least for me, I'm somebody that when I'm upset about something, I immediately want to tell Nick. Like that's how I am. Like if I am hurt about something or if I'm concerned about something, I immediately want to talk about it with Nick. Because I don't really like leaving things unsaid. And it's very easy for people like myself to want to hash everything out like right there so that everything's fine. But something which like makes sense in theory, right? But something I've actually realized is that it's the way that confrontation often goes is that you go up to somebody, you tell them how you're feeling, and then they're going to have some sort of initial first response. Now, that response can be defensive, it could be understanding. Um, and I guess I'll just kind of go use those two examples. For a defensive response, that person might initially be like, hey, I didn't do that. Like, what are you talking about? And get really offended really quickly. But then there's like a second stage to it where after having maybe like 10 minutes to think about it and like kind of get out of that initial fight or flight headspace, then they come back and they're like, okay, I had my time to think about it. And I'm sorry that like I made you feel this way. And on the contrary, if you're somebody that's super understanding, maybe at the time you're like, oh, I'm so sorry. But then you take a second to like walk away and come back and say, actually, I feel kind of hurt that you said this, or I disagree with what you said. And it's totally okay to disagree with somebody when they come to you. I think like social media has kind of made this idea that anytime somebody comes to you with something, you immediately have to validate it and agree with them. But that's just not the case. You can disagree and you can say, actually, I don't feel like I was doing that and I feel hurt about this or something along that line. But anyway, communicating something like, hey, I can't I can't peel your oranges today. Maybe it will be like an initial, like, why are you doing this? But also trust that if you are in like a good relationship, they're going to come back and have relaxed and understanding conversation with you. And, maybe they'll say, I just like, I've had a really hard day and I feel like really stressed and I just can't do these small things. I need like a break. Or maybe they'll say, honestly, that wasn't a big deal. I should have just peeled it for you because I care about you.
Yeah.
And I'm sorry, this is why I did it, but it wasn't cool. All of these things, they're totally okay. And I think it's just about being in a healthy relationship means finding that trust. You probably won't get it initially. Like trusting somebody takes a long time. But when you're in a very good relationship, you'll know that no matter what, you guys are going to be okay. And that gives you the space to be able to talk about stuff like if you're using the orange peel theory too much, or if you're not using it enough, or if you want your other partner to do more small things for you because it makes you feel cared about.
Yeah.
Cool. Well, I think this wraps up our first podcast.
Yeah.
I'm excited to see where this goes.
We're going to keep talking about things that have to do with relationships. Some of them have to do with internet trends, and we have lots of thoughts that we'd like to share. If you like what you heard, come back for more.
Yeah, absolutely. And again, check out our TikTok at Hard Lunch the podcast or podcast. It might just I actually don't know. But I'll leave it in the show notes. And feel free to comment on our TikToks what kind of content you'd like to see from us. And we have some really cool ideas. So we look forward to talking and diving deeper into other relationship topics for you guys. Thanks for joining.